Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister outline to the House how the Morrison government is working to secure a more prosperous and safer Australia as we continue our recovery from the COVID-19 global pandemic?
The Prime Minister has the call.
Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Moncrieff for her question, and I thank her for her tremendous advocacy, representing particularly the many in the tourism, the hospitality and travel industries in the Gold Coast, Mr Speaker, that we've been so able to assist over this course of this past year and going forward. A year ago, there were 169,000 cases in total around the world of COVID-19 and some 6,470 deaths. Today, there are more than 375,000 cases additional daily and additional 20,000 deaths per day also. It has been quite an extraordinary year. A year ago today, the National Cabinet met for the first time officially. This time last year, the borders had already been closed. The Incident Response Centre had already been established, along with the activation of the Incident Response Plan in mid-January. The AHPPC, the medical expert panel from mid-January, had been meeting daily. The National Security Committee was meeting regularly, Mr Speaker, and many times a day on occasions to direct the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. What followed through the actions of the Expenditure Review Committee and the Cabinet, JobKeeper, JobSeeker, the cash flow boost, apprenticeship support, international freight assistance, domestic airline network support, zookeeper, aquarium keeper, Rise Fund, Mr Speaker, to support the entertainment industry, business events, $2,000 completed as recently as just the past week of welfare payments, additional to supplement to boost the national economy. Support for childcare, aged care, pathology services, mental health, private hospital support, critical medical supplies production and vaccines secured from across the world, Mr Speaker, and most importantly, a domestic production capability established for the AstraZeneca vaccine here in this country to produce over 50 million doses, one of the few countries in the world that has such a domestic capability to produce that vaccine. And without it, Mr Speaker, we would not have a vaccination program were it not for the foresight of that decision. Mr Speaker, so now a year later, Australia leads the world out of the global COVID-19 pandemic and the COVID-19 recession. And Australia is recognised. As I met with the Quad leaders for the first time on the weekend, Mr Speaker, that leadership and that experience here in Australia is recognised around the world. It is the same reason that we have been recognised with the election of Australia's candidate to be the next Secretary-General of the OECD and the former Finance Minister, Minister Cormann, Mr Speaker. It is why at the G7 we join other countries in the G7 Plus dialogue later this year, because Australia is leading the way. The Australian way to dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, Mr Speaker, is one of the most successful in the world, and our government remains committed to continuing on that path.
The Prime Minister's time has concluded.